My dear brothers and sisters, in the past few weeks since our enhanced community quarantine, we have gotten used to a lot of information in the form of Q&A, question and answer. And so for this homily, I will follow the same pattern, Q&A, 4 questions, 4 answers. First question, can I use my old palms from last year? Second question, can I still celebrate Palm Sunday without the usual decorated palms? Third question, what is the meaning of the palms for Palm Sunday? And fourth question, why is Palm Sunday also called Passion Sunday? Let us begin with the first question. Can I use my old palms from last year? The answer is, I'm sorry, no, you cannot use them. You should not even have them anymore. You should have returned them to your parish in order to be turned into ashes for Ash Wednesday. We started our quarantine, our Quaresma, with Ash Wednesday, the beginning of the season of Lent, which is our spiritual quarantine. Part of the ritual today is to bring new and fresh palms that will also be prepared to become ashes for next year. Meaning, we have to be always ready for that scenario, that there might be no more next year for us. That like our palms, we will turn into ashes. We will turn into dust. I know it is a bit morbid, but it is part of the realism of Christian tradition. And this speaks a lot to us, especially now, that we do not even have the time to mourn the dead. They have to be buried without the usual long wakes and elaborate funerals. And those among our brothers and sisters who have died of the COVID or the coronavirus are turned into ashes or cremated within 8 hours. Your palms will turn into ashes. Second question, what do I do if I do not have the usual decorated palm fronds like the Filipino palms na mayroon pang nakatirintas at mayroon pang ribbon? This year, during our enhanced community quarantine, many of us will have no access to the usual decorated palms. And so what is my answer to the question, can we still celebrate Palm Sunday without the usual decorated palms? My answer is, any leafy branch would do. It doesn't even have to be palms. Kahit anong sanga na may dahon. And think about it also as a ritual reenactment of the biblical quarantine. Biblical quarantine? Is there such a thing? Oh, yes. Yes, there is such a story in the Bible. Do you remember the story of Noah's Ark in the book of Genesis, chapters 7 to 9? We are told that Noah and his family and his animals stayed inside the ark for 40 days, waiting for the flood waters to settle down. Parang tayo din, just like all of us, we have stayed We have turned our homes into little Noah's arks for the past few days in order to flatten the curve para humupa ang nangyayari ngayong salot. The biblical story tells us that at the end of 40 days, Noah opened a window and he let out a dove. Isang kalapati. The dove came back with a twig of olive in its beak. A twig of olive in its beak. Well, we do not have olive trees in the Philippines, but whatever green leaf you can bring with you. The twig of olive became the symbol of new life, new creation, and a new humanity, the symbol of the end of the 40 days of deluge, an end to their quarantine. Brothers and sisters, it cannot be back to the same things all over again after the COVID-19. I hope I answered the question. Again, any leafy branch will do. Perhaps you can put it in a jar of water to keep it as green as long as possible. And then, before it withers, you can put it on your door or on your window. Let it be a statement of hope. There is going to be a new life. There's going to be a new creation after COVID-19. And now for the third question. What is the meaning of the palms for Palm Sunday? Answer: it is obvious what the palms mean for us Christians, the triumphant entry of Jesus to Jerusalem. But did the palms also mean something for the Jewish people? Of course. The gospel for the blessing of the palms tells us that many people spread their cloaks on the road, and others they spread their leafy branches. Were they doing this to welcome Jesus? Well, if we follow the Gospel of John, we are told that a few days before Jesus was arrested, Jesus attended a Jewish fiesta. They called it Sukkoth. Sukkoth means the feast of the tents or the feast of the booths. Sa Tagalog, bahay-bahayan. It is still being done by the Jewish people up to now. Once a year, they reenact the 40 years in the desert. I call the 40 years the longer quarantine. Not 40 days. They stayed for 40 years in the desert. It is a symbolic commemoration of their desert experience. You see, Moses was a good strategist. In Exodus, we are told that when he led the Israelite people out of slavery in Egypt, they passed by Midian. And that place is the place of his father-in-law, Jethro. And there, he hired the services of his wife's brother, Hobab. He was a desert guide, meaning a navigator. They had no GPS. They had no ways yet back then. A navigator was supposed to know all the resting stations in the desert on their way to the promised land. In the middle of the desert, sometimes they found little patches of green. In English, they are called oases. Green patches in the middle of a dry desert. There, they could rest from the journey for a while. They could refill their water bags, and they could let their camels have a good drink of water before the next leg of the journey. And so, the palms symbolized the stopover because the oases were filled with palm trees, date palms. The palms symbolized the stopover, and they reenacted this experience once a year by spreading cloaks and spreading mats and palm branches and making them into makeshift tents. Bahay-bahayan sa gitna ng kalsada, makeshift tents with only the most essential amenities. Hindi ba parang ganyan din? A bit like our enhanced community quarantine. Nowadays, we are getting used to building tents all over again. Why? Because our hospitals are full. We need tents as field hospitals, as places of isolation for PUIs and PUMs, persons under investigation and persons under monitoring. The palms in the middle of a dry desert symbolized hope, something green, a temporary stopover in the journey. Palms were supposed to remind the Jewish people of those difficult times, the challenging journey through the desert on their way to the promised land. And brothers and sisters, they still mean the same thing today. We are all travelers, aren't we? We are pilgrims on a journey in this world. This is not yet the ultimate destination. We're only passing through. We must learn to travel light. Get rid of the overload of baggages in our lives. Bring only the essentials. And I do hope that our community quarantine has taught us to return to the essentials of life. There is a promised land waiting for us. And we won't get there if we get lost in the non-essentials of this world. And my fourth and final question, why is Palm Sunday also called Passion Sunday? Obviously, because it begins the commemoration of the final week before Jesus was arrested and sentenced to a death penalty through crucifixion and then resurrected after 3 days. Although passion means suffering, and we even chant the Passion in the Philippines up to now, passion also means drive, motivation, or a sense of mission. Alab ng puso, the fire within. Jesus was not entering Jerusalem like a helpless victim of circumstances. He was fully aware of what was going to happen. But he went on with the journey anyway. There was fire within him. Something was driving him. People would usually back out if they knew that the journey could mean suffering and death. And so, passion is about asking, what drove Jesus from within? What pushed him to carry on anyway? And the answer is this: mission. It is the mission that gave him the passion. It is not a mission impossible. It is a mission that is possible. And what is that mission? To defeat evil. To prove that good has greater power over evil. And that good is best expressed by unconditional loving. And so John says to us, Jesus loved them to the very end. He loved them. He could not get himself to hate them, even if they made him suffer. He faced the cruelty. He faced the insults. He faced the inhumanity, not just of his enemies, but also the treachery and the denial and the betrayal by his own good friends. He never gave up on anybody, not even on Judas Iscariot. He loved them to the very end. He turned the meal of betrayal into a meal of forgiveness. This is the passion that we now need in the middle of this lockdown, in the middle of our quarantine. Yes, this lockdown will bring out the worst in us, but we can also make it bring out the best in us. The compassion, the solidarity, the sacrifice, the boldness for mission, the redeeming love, the nobility of the human spirit. Brothers and sisters, the cross of Jesus is about martyrdom, not about victimhood. Victimhood is about having no choice. When you're a victim, you have no choice. You are just a victim of circumstances. The passion was Jesus' choice. It is about martyrdom. It is about making a choice to do witnessing. That is what martyrdom is about. To witness. To do witnessing. To do witnessing to what is true and what is noble. And so, let us wave our palms. May I have my palm again, please? We need to wave our palms. Let us wave our palms at home. Please, wave your palms at home. Our green leaves, whatever green leaves you might have, they don't have to be palm fronds. Let us make a statement. This is our statement of hope. As we go through this lockdown and quarantine, we will not allow ourselves to be defeated. Rather, we will allow the fire of the passion, ang alab ng puso ni Kristo, to burn within us, because we have a long journey ahead in this spiritual battle. And I assure you that good has power over evil. We wave these palm branches because we walk with Jesus with passion to allow good to triumph over evil. Amen? Amen.